Before I'll allow Mr. Bodhi Ramteke to talk, let me give a small introduction to our group. Uh, Mr. Bodhi Ramteke is an advocate, researcher, and enormous Mundu human rights scholar, currently pursuing master's degree in human rights policy and practice through a prestigious joint program offered by leading European universities. He began his academic journey at the Indian Law Society's Law College, Pune, where he completed his BA LLB. During his legal education, Bodhi worked with prominent human rights lawyers as well as local and international organizations. He was awarded the Samta Fellowship by CORO India in recognition of his commitment to grassroots social justice. Mr. Bodhi has served as a research associate at the Center for Research and Planning, Supreme Court of India, and an intern in the Chambers of Justice D.Y. Chandrachud and Justice Ravindra Bhatt at the Supreme Court. Internationally, he was selected for the United Nations Graduate Study Program 2024 in Geneva and contributed as a researcher to the Australian National Community Consultations, sorry for my consultations on caste discrimination 2024. An active writer, Mr. Bodhi regularly engaged with issues concerning Dalit and Adivasi communities and is the author of the Marathi book called Nyay, in English is Justice. The meaning of that word is justice. He has also presented his research at the international conference and workshop in the UK and Sweden, contributing to global discourse on caste, indigenous rights, and constitutional justice. With that, again, I welcome Mr. Bodhi Ramteke on the call. Thanks for joining. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your time. Before I allow you to speak, let me give some brief idea so that you get the idea like how the
Sure, sure.
session go.
Yeah.
Please go for it. So we generally allow you 20 to 30 minutes for your speech. And
Okay.
during when you are giving a speech or talk, we will be mute. So don't worry that we are here. We are listening you like without any disturbance. If you want to share any screen or any presentation, feel free to let us know. We will make you co-host. Uh, Most preferable language is English. But if you are not comfortable with English, you can go with second language Hindi and not then Marathi. That's fine.
Okay.
And once your presentation is over, I will open the floor for the questions. There are around 20 to 25 family members on the call. If they have any question, they will ask it.
Okay.
Do you
Thank
have any
you. I
questions
don't have any
before?
presentation, so I'll start.
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's
Okay.
fine. It's totally fine. So yeah, with this, floor is yours, sir. You can talk. I'm going on mute. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank
Any
you.
question, feel free to ask. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sure. Thank
thank you. Thank you so much for your kind, introduction. So I would like to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to the team of Anna for inviting me to this important session. I have been following the work of Anna, and I'm deeply appreciate the manner in which the organization has consistently sought to pay back to society, not in terms of charity, but as a conscious social responsibility. And what is particularly commendable is the way Anna combines professional excellence with a strong commitment to the social consciousness, while remaining deeply rooted to the ideas of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So, in an era where professional successes are, often detached from the social responsibilities, Anna's work, stands as a reminder that the knowledge, when guided by the kind of morality that Baba Sahib has given us, the constitutional morality that he has multiple time he has spoke on this constitutional morality, which is deeply rooted in the ideas of Buddha and the values of Dr. Ambedkar. So can must and, serve the cause of social justice and collective emancipation. So I really appreciate your work. So today I'll be speaking on social justice advocacy for the oppressed and Ambedkarite legal perspective. So in this address, I will draw upon my personal experiences of the legal advocacy with the oppressed communities, particularly in the region of the Gadchiroli in Maharashtra, which is a tribal dominated region, and also it has been influenced by this some kind of armed movements. And I'll also reflect on how this work has been continuously guided by the constitutional visions and the transformative values articulated by Dr. Ambedkar. So, first and foremost, let us begin by clarifying what I mean when I refer to an Ambedkarite legal perspective. So, it is not not merely a way of interpreting law, but a way of using law as a conscious, as a strategic, and a transformative instrument in the struggle of oppressed communities. Let it be the ex-untouchables or the Adivasi communities, or the minorities, or the nomadic communities, for the dignity, for the equality and justice. Dr. Ambedkar, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar was not merely constitutional draftsman or a political leader. He was also a jurist of operation who understand that in a society which is totally structured by caste, law could be either a function as an instrument of domination or be consciously transformed into a weapon of liberation. So here, an Ambedkarite legal perspective begins with the recognition that the injustice in India is structural, it's very structural, it's historical and reproduced through institutions, including the legal ones, and the social justice demands a deliberate strategic engagement with law. So, Baba Sahib's engagement with law was never an abstract one, or a symbolic. It was very rigorously instrumental. It was very strategic and outcome oriented. So if you look at the movement of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar from the very beginning, so his struggle was directed towards securing the concrete legal gain rather than appealing to the moral conscience of the dominant caste, or waiting for an evolutionary reform of the society. So for Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, caste was a system which was sustained by the institutional powers, and therefore it could be dismantled through the counter institutional legal intervention. So if we look at any of this movement that Baba Sahib Ambedkar has started, or this his fight for the justice, you will see that Baba Sahib has always tried to get legal gain from that kind of movement. So what he argued that did not emerge from the sympathy. So for the rights, what Baba Sahib has said, that it does not emerge from the sympathy, but from the struggle. They had to be asserted as claims, as they claims, and codified into law, and that should be backed by the enforceable remedies. So this conviction about Dr. Ambedkar explains why Baba Sahib has deliberately operated multiple legal and political arenas, treating each as a strategic site of contestation. So, in this respect, so if you look at the Baba Sahib Ambedkar's legal philosophy, it finds the striking parallel in the praxis of the Shahu Maharaj, who was the king of the Kolhapur. So long before the constitutional democracy in India, Shahu Maharaj has also recognized that the social justice could not be secured through the moral and exhortation alone. Yeah, so his introduction of reservation, you might be aware of the policy that has been introduced by Shahu Maharaj. So his introduction of reservation in the education, or the employment is in the princely state of Kolhapur, was fundamentally legal act, which is an example of using state power to correct the historical disadvantage faced by this oppressed community. So like Baba Sahib Ambedkar, Shahu Maharaj has also understood law as a redistributive tool capable of altering the social structure, the structure of operation, by reallocating the access to institutions of the power. So both this figure, Dr. Ambedkar, Shahu Maharaj, shared a rejection of symbolic reform and commitment to the state-backed legal intervention as the viable means of challenging this entrenched hierarchy of caste. So, in his advocacy, if you look at the advocacy of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, he employed multiple and indeed every available legal means. So, he was a firm believer that unless the demands of these oppressed communities, the demands of these untouchables, the demands of the disadvantaged groups are translated into the concrete legal gain, they remain abstract. They remain very symbolic. So, uh, uh, So it was instances of converting the struggle into the law that distinguished his approach from purely reformist or the rhetorical politics, and placed legal strategy at the very heart of this his emancipatory movement. So we'll look at some of the examples on how Dr. Ambedkar has translated his demands into the legal gains. So one of the earliest and most instructive illustration of Baba Saheb Ambedkar's legal strategy is Mahar Satyagraha, which is often remembered as a purely symbolic and a very moral struggle over access to water. But in reality, Mahar was a careful, constructed legal intervention aimed at asserting enforceable civic right, the human rights within a hostile social order. So Baba Sahib anchored the movement in the legal status of Chowdar Tank, which was not private or religious space but a public water source maintained by the municipal funds under that Mahad municipality. So, by grounding the agitation in a legal fact, Baba Sahib framed the issue not as a appeal for a social generosity, but as a demand for enforcement of existing legal entitlement available to all citizens. Or he was demanding for the natural rights given to this to all citizens or all members of this globe, that they have gained this right as being the citizen of this globe. So the Satyagraha of which was happened in March 1927 was therefore a conscious act of constitutional assertion before the constitution itself existed. So when the untouchables drew water from the tank, they were not transgressing law. They were asserting a right that already recognized in the municipal governance. So crucially, when the upper caste groups challenged Dalit access by initiating litigation, Baba Sahib did not withdraw the movement into the language of moral injury or a symbolic protest. Instead, Baba Sahib welcomed the legal contest, recognizing the courtroom as a critical site where this caste power could be confronted to the reasoned adjudication. So, the legal dispute that followed the prolonged struggle for several years. Effectively styling the Dalit access or the access of the untouchables to the tank for nearly a decade. So during the period, Baba Sahib deliberately restrained further physical assertion at Mahar, not out of a retreat, but as a strategic decision to allow the legal process to run its course. So this restraint reflected his belief that sustainable social transformation required judicial affirmation. So if you look at the case of Mahar Satyagraha, the case traveled through the colonial legal system, and it was only in 1937, after 10 years after the Satyagraha actually happened at Mahar, that the Bombay High Court finally upheld the right of the untouchable to the access to Chowdar Lake. So the Mahal litigation stand as a foundation example of Baba Sahib method that mass mobilization initiated the claim, but law was the arena in which it was secured. So if you look at a different kind of example, so Baba Sahib attempted to locate a global legal space where the struggle of untouchable could be articulated and heard. So you might be aware, but the first session of the United Nations General Assembly was held in 1946. And at the historic moment, India chose to ignore its own deeply entrenched internal injustices and instead raise a complaint concerning discrimination against minority Indians in South Africa. So it was during the session that the John Smoot, to whom Dr. Ambedkar has earlierly explained the gravity of the untouchability in India. So he questioned the India's representatives, Maharaja Singh, asking why India was silent about the nearly 50 millions of oppressed people, the caste oppressed people within its own boundary. So this episode deeply disturbed Baba Sahib. So he expressed strong satisfaction with India's position and made it unequally clear that it was morally and politically untenable to speak about the suffering of Indians abroad while systematically denying and neglecting the condition of the untouchables at their home country. So as a consequence, Dr. Ambedkar decided to pursue the matter independently. So he resolved to send his own representative to the United States to raise the issue of untouchability on an international platform at the International Legal Forum. So as a part of his effort, he also reached out to Du Bois, a leading figure in the African American civil rights movement, seeking guidance on the procedure for submitting a petition before the United Nations. So Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar intended to formally place before the world body a petition document the lived realities and the structural violence faced by the untouchables in India. However, the international political climate of that time was heavily centered on M.K. Gandhi and the Indian independence movement, leaving a very little space for radical critique of caste oppression. And as a result, Dr. Ambedkar did not receive the institutional support he hoped for, yet this did not deter him. His struggle for the dignity and rights of the untouchable continue undebated, and we all are aware of that. So, what this episode powerfully demonstrates is Baba Sahib's unwavering commitment to employing every possible forum, every possible strategies and legal instrument to advance the cause of oppressed. So it is this persistence, this refusal to accept silence or symbolic recognition in place of a substantive justice that marks his advocacy. And it is precisely this depth of resolve and consistency that we in our contemporary struggle must critically reflect upon and strive to sustain. So later on, if we look at the journey of the Indian Constitution, if we look very closely and analyze Baba's advocacy during the making of this Indian Constitution, it becomes clear that he was not just drafting a legal document. He was crafting a vision of justice for people like us, the people, the millions of Indians, the oppressed, the caste oppressed people who have faced the generations of systemic oppression in this very in this very caste system. So he made sure that the constitution would guarantee us rights, include reservation, representation, and provide legal safeguard, not just to protect us from the ongoing violence, but to have control over the governing or the ruling class. But Baba Sahib also knew that simply writing the rights on a paper wasn't enough. So what's the use of the right if we can't enforce it when it's violated? So that's why he placed even greater emphasis on the article of the Indian Constitution that would give us the power to protect and claim those rights. So, according to Dr. Ambedkar, the most important article in this Indian Constitution is Article 32. Baba Sahib Ambedkar called this article as the very heart and soul of this Indian Constitution, of this entire documents, and it's through Article 32 that the community can directly approach to the Supreme Court when the fundamental rights are denied. So, in Baba Sahib's vision, this wasn't just a legal language, it was a weapon of resistance, a shield for the oppressed community, and a way to hold the powerful people accountable. So, the solution to this very so so if you look at even though Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar called is as a heart and soul of the constitution, if we look at the situation, the current situation, we'll see that many of this the people from the oppressed community couldn't reach to the Supreme Court or the High Court because of their socio-economic barrier. So you'll see, I mean, there are multiple issues of the communities, but that are not able to reach this the Supreme Court. So there are, I mean, if you look at the Article 21 of this Indian Constitution, it has been interpreted in a multiple way. Right to sleep has been considered as the fundamental right. Right to roads has been considered as a fundamental right, because these issues were able to reach to the Supreme Court, but due to the lack of access to justice, the issues of this oppressed community, the issues of their dignity couldn't reach to the court, and that hasn't been interpreted in a way that Dr. Ambedkar has envisioned. So the solution, when Dr. Ambedkar says it's an heart and soul of the Constitution, but at the same time, if the community is not able to reach to the Supreme Court, what is use of this article? That might be the question that come to your mind. So the solution to this very paradox, the gap between the right and the real access, was already given by us, by Dr. Ambedkar himself. In the same article, he carved heart and soul of this constitution. It lies in the Article 32(3) of this Indian Constitution. So most people or the state or the leaders do not talk about this clause, but Baba Sahib had thought about it long before we faced the problem. Baba Sahib knew that even I'm ensuring the right to our people, if their fundamental rights have been violated, they can directly go to the Supreme Court. But he knew that there will be the situation that our people couldn't reach to these courts. So the economic barriers, the caste barriers, the social barriers will be faced by our people. So he also ensured Article 32(3). What Article 32(3) of this Indian Constitution says, it empowers the Parliament of India to give the powers of the Supreme Court that to protect the fundamental rights to any other court within its jurisdiction. So it simply means that the power to enforce our rights doesn't have to remain only in the capital Delhi, only in the hands of elite lawyers or the costly institutions. Baba Sahib wanted this power to reach us, to reach the grassroots, to reach every remote district, to reach the Adivasis and the Dalits, to the nomadic tribe. He knew very well that unless this power was decentralized, unless unless it came closer to the people, it would become a dead letter for those who needed it most. So if such act was were to come in existence, the district courts, you might be aware of the hierarchy of the judiciary in India. So the courts that are based in the taluka levels or the district court could be empowered to enforce the fundamental rights, and our people would finally have easier access to justice. But the refusal to enact this law in the 75 years of the Indian Constitution is not accidental. I think, and what I argue is it's a deliberate act. So those in power have always known that it's the local court, the district court, or the taluka courts were given the authority, the ruling class would be exposed and caught red-handed every time they ignored and violated our rights. And so empowering the local court would mean that our struggle could not longer be silent, and that accountability would reach even the most powerful. So this clause 32(3) hence is a radical tool for social justice. So, but if we see that unfortunately in the 75 years of the independence, all the successive governments and the legal system have failed to activate this clause meaningfully. So if we want to truly carry forward the Baba Sahib visions, we must demand implementation. The community must also demand Article 32. So there's need to localize the constitutional justice, ensure the very local courts are equipped and empowered to protect the fundamental rights. So here comes the role of people like us. When the state failed to enact such kind of law, the responsibility fall on us. And those who are educated because of the struggle of Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar, and it becomes their moral responsibility to carry forward Baba Sahib vision and bring this kind of to interpret this kind of the provisions of the Indian Constitution, to bring the court to the people, not just symbolically but in a real and a very tangible ways. So if the system won't come to us, then it becomes our duty to take the Constitution to the margins, to ensure that even in the most remote corner, they have the access to justice. So I have been working since last 5 to 6 years on the issues of this kind of access to justice, which has been denied systematically to our people. So I'll share with you one of the examples and one of the cases that I fought for this Adivasi community. So I hope you might be aware of the district Gadchiroli in Maharashtra, which is totally tribal dominated district, and still struggling and the people are still struggling to get the fundamental right issue. So in Gadchiroli, there's a village called Vengnur. It's a very situated in a very dense forest in Gadchiroli, and it is also home to the Madia community. It's a Madia, which is one of the India's particularly vulnerable tribal group. So the central government of India has categorized 75 such communities as PVTGs. which are most vulnerable communities in India, those who are still have a pre-agricultural techniques, those who are still struggling for the basic rights, and they have this decreasing population, so they have been categorized of the PVTGs, and Madia community is one of those PVTGs. And for decades, the villages of this Madia community, 4-5 villages under this Vengnur Gram Panchayat, this village remained completely cut off from the outside world for nearly 6 months every year during monsoon. So there are no roads to reach the village, and if you have to go to the village, one has to cross around 12 water streams, and during monsoon it becomes totally impossible. And there's also a dam, and one has to cross the backwater of this dam to reach the villages, and it becomes totally impossible for the villagers to come outside those villages. And during this time, the medical emergency, in many instances I've interacted with this woman, that many pregnant women endured this entire night in labor. So 9-month pregnant women, they have to endure their entire night in labor because they couldn't reach the hospitals. There are no hospitals in the village until the flood water subsidized by the morning. So on paper, the right to dignified life is guaranteed under Article 21 of this Constitution, which include access to essential like healthcare, right to mobility and infrastructure. But 75 years of this independence, this right remain out of reach for the communities like the Madhyas and other marginalized communities. So this community have approached these institutions, but you will see the common approach of looking toward this marginalized community, the Dalits, the untouchables, and the scheduled caste people and the tribal people, that these people are savage, these people are uncivilized. This is the approach even today we see, the colonial approach we see in this administrative system. So these people have approached these officials and the representative, but their voice has been ignored multiple times. So this is where our intervention begins. So along with a small team, I approached the village not with an idea of saviorhood, because there are a lot of NGOs who are trying to portray themselves as the savior of this community, coming from this upper caste background. They don't have that kind of understanding our live realities of our communities, of these Adivasi communities, but coming to there and portraying there as our saviors or as Masiha. So we approach village not with the idea of saviorhood, but with the belief that Baba said vision must be completed, not from the above, but alongside the people. So we work to build a legal awareness to help the community understand their life and to explore the grassroots methods of accessing justice. So in this intervention, we didn't walk into the court. We had the option filing the petition to the court. You might be aware that if you have to approach to the court, you have to file a traditional way of filing the petition at the court. So instead, we told to the court that these people, this Madia community people, cannot reach to you and you must reach to them, because Constitution has ensured access to justice to all these citizens of India. So we drafted a letter. So this is not a traditional kind of approach to this judicial system. So we drafted a letter together with the community. We collected the affidavit, we wrote the letter collectively, read it out publicly in the village, and then sent it to the local post office, to the Nagpur bench of the Bombay High Court. And we weren't simply filing a case, we were setting a precedent, that we were asserting that access to justice itself must be reimagined, especially for the community that the system continues to structurally exclude. So the intervention that we made, the new approach that we tried to bring into this judiciary, so to the court's credit, they responded, because they had to respond, because it is Indian Constitution, is Baba Saheb Ambedkar vision that said that every last person of this country should be ensured with the fundamental rights. So the court admitted the letter as a public interest litigation. They appointed the lawyers who had to travel hundreds of kilometers to witness the realities on the ground. So this village is very close to my own village. So after 2 years of the sustained advocacy, a massive budget of 350 crores was sanctioned for the construction of 12 bridges on those 12 water stream roads and the hospital in the region. So this September, I came back from the UK where I was studying my master's. After coming back, what I did firstly was I went to the village where first I had to go by the wooden boats. Now, with a pride, with the community, I went to the village with a very tar road that was constructed after advocacy. So this is not just a policy win. I think it's a movement of transformation. So today other villages in the region are now reaching out to them, inspired by the legal intervention, the unique legal intervention led by the community itself. So this entire approach was consciously Ambedkarite. I did not enter the village Vengnur or with the community as an outsider offering a very charity. I approached the community with a metta, the idea of Buddha, with solidarity and the shared consciousness, attempting in a small way to carry forward what Baba Sahib Ambedkar envisioned, a constitution that reaches the most oppressed, not just in a form but in a function. So and looking at this, so what I observe when I am working in this legal fraternity, so what troubles me that even within our community, so there are many young lawyers and the scholar remain caught between the theory and practice. So Baba Sahib did not have that division. His was a very pragmatic constitutionalism rooted in the life struggle, the legal clarity and the political courage. So this effort in Venur was a small attempt to bring, bring bridge that kind of gap, to not only speak of the right, to not only theorize the situation, not only to theorize this kind of operation being faced by this community, but to activate them, to activate the right that have been ensured in the Indian Constitution, to not only study Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar, to practice him. That was a attempt to practice what Baba Sahib Ambedkar has continuously trying to show us through his multiple movements. So what Baba Sahib vision and my own practical experiences have taught me that the movements driven purely by the emotions without any strategic thinking and a long-term planning cannot take us far. So this is the thing where I try to emphasize and try to highlight in every of our community meetings. So in such struggle of our community, it is always our people who bleed. So and when the dust settle, it is the community that stands more vulnerable, more weakened, and more exposed to the exploitation. And so we still haven't fully understand the depth and strategies behind Baba Sahib Ambedkar's broader movement. His emphasis on multiple kind of legal strategies, multiple kind of the strategies that Baba Sahib Ambedkar has used. So we quote him, we praise him, but rarely, sometimes it's hard to study his method, his discipline, his constitutional foresights, his belief in organized resistance. And in today's time, this understanding, I think, it's very urgent than ever. The issues we face, the oppressed communities, the issues being faced by these oppressed communities, that they are very structural, they're very legal, they're very political, and very deeply embedded in the way the system is built. So, uh, uh, so uh, 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 here is the role of what I see. Here is the role of the educated people become very crucial. So, but what I see in this society, sadly, many of this the educated people who are here, the middle class kind of the community, scheduled caste community, have become disconnected from the movement. So I'm not generalizing the statement, but I'm talking about a set of people who have been disconnected from the movement and trapped in the individual upward mobility. They have started believing that their personal success is the same as the community's progress, but that is not. But we must be honest. We are still not empowered. The communities living in the ghettos, community living in the forest, the community lives living in the bastis, who are living in the slums, they are not still empowered, and there is a lot of work that we have to do. So here we still lack resources, we lack strong institutions, and we lack enough platform to challenge the dominant order on the equal footing. So even there are many scholars who should be guiding social change but have turned away from the grassroots. rather than engaging with the real painful questions of our people, are living through many and many of these people have also choose to project a false narrative of progress. But progress built on denial is, I think, is not a progress. So it is an abandonment. So and the cost of this denial is very heavy. That is, our struggle remain invisible, and our people suffer silently, and the system grows stronger in our silence. So until we acknowledge the decline of our collective movement, will remain in the cycle of symbolic resistance with no structural impact. So I think this must stop, and if we fail to act with clarity, with unity and purpose, it is our people will continue to suffer. So lives will be lost of our people, not just to the violence, but neglect and silence. And while we remain fragmented, the system will not only defeat us, it will rebrand us as the enemy of this very nation, which is built on the dignity, on the labor of our people. The nation which is built on the labor of the dignity of our people. So the time is to act now. It is the responsibility of all of the community. So with consciousness, with strategies and the rootedness in Baba Sahib legacy, we must have to reclaim the struggle, not just in his name, but the methods that have been given by our emancipator, Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar. So do we have some time or already?
We almost have 30 minutes, but if you have need
Okay,
4 or 5 minutes more, we can still have that. That's fine.
okay, sure.
So that we can have some time for any questions answers. So yeah.
Okay, so shall I stop now or can I
Do you have,
just
how much time do you think you need more? Like this?
uh, 4 to 5 minutes? I think,
That's
or
fine.
I think I can stop
No, no,
and
that's
because
fine. You can have it. We still have time, so you can take 4 or 5 minutes and then we can ask. That's fine. If you want to continue, that's absolutely fine.
okay, I think that would be a different kind of discussion. So we can
Okay.
it is about the reparation, to bring the context of reparation in the context of this ex untouchable. So I think we could arrange a different session on this. So I
Sure.
think I stop it now because
Sure,
that will be,
sure.
yeah, sure.
Sure,
Thank you.
thanks, Bodhi, for this wonderful talk. And what a very wonderful time. Like we are celebrating almost 98 years of burning Manusmriti,
Right.
and we are going to the new constitution provided by Baba Sahib. And then your topic is linked to the same one for justice for oppressed or oppressed community. So it's really wonderful. Thanks for your talk. I really like the idea. Before, let me check audience members. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask the question. Or if you have any trouble to unmute yourself, you can type your question in the chat window and I will ask that question. So yeah, thank you. So meanwhile, like people members are thinking about a question, uh, Mr. Bodhi, I have a question to you regarding that topic you're talking about the Madia community where you submitted the document and then around 350 crore of that budget approved and then they get road and infrastructure. May I know like how much time frame you spend on that, how much energy or time you spend to finish that job or finish that work?
I mean, it nearly took us around 2 to 3 years because what is the problem in the community? That is a lack of legal awareness. So first, in this case, we need to aware this community because when you are not aware of this kind of legal avenues that you have, the legal rights that we have, even the operation, you won't realize that you are being oppressed, that some of your rights are being violated. So first we invested our time to aware this community about their rights. So in the meanwhile, I also wrote a book that you mentioned earlier during the introduction, Nyay, which simplified the laws and the procedures that the common people could understand, the tribal people could understand. So I tried to write in a very simple form, in a very local language, that every Gram Sabha or every Adivasi people or every scheduled caste people could understand it and get aware of that kind of right. So this entire process took us around 2 to 3 years. We had multiple visits to the village. We have to represent before the court. We have to document this kind of issues. We also did a empirical research around that issues, documenting the not just issues of Vengnur but entire Madia community, that are they aware of the constitution right, are they aware of the procedure that are ensured in this statutory provisions that are like how to file an FIR. We found that around more than 50 to 60% people don't have knowledge of how to file an FIR. So this is the problem that we have. I've seen, I mean, the research that we have conducted, and that were the results that we have found out from our empirical research. So collectively, the issue was one with this Vengnur village, but we have tried to connect it with multiple issues and to bring a common discourse around the lack of how do you say it, the lack of mobility, the lack of healthcare infrastructure, the right, I mean, the non-enforcement of Article 21 ensured in this constitution. I hope I answered your question.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely yeah. That answered my question. So thank you. I can see one hand raised by Mr. Vivek. Sir, please go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you, Bodhi, Jai Bhim, and Namo Buddhaya for joining the call and giving such a the importance and the information to such a neglected issues that and the areas that you're living in is pretty neglected by historically, and time and again we have seen such incidences where this part of the is people like the government would say we're going to transfer you to Gadchiroli area because so I think such things are pretty important, that the work that you do on the ground level, it really highlights the need for the time. My question is, I know since you're working in a very area where people may be a little bit resistive to accept the terms and conditions of to bring the awareness to these people. Historically, the resistance has been there to preserve its own culture, own ways, own methods of living. Do you feel that resistance when you are approaching these tribal populations, bringing them their rights, the constitutional rights, the facilities they have available in the modern, I can call it modern India. But we know how much advancement has reached to these populations, and are they are able to accept it? Do you feel that resistance as a community worker?
No, I think, I mean, eventually, because if I specifically talk about Gadchiroli, there has been multiple Adivasi movements that they have been fighting for their rights. So they are ready to accept what has constitution has ensured the right to this community. So it is not something like they are rejecting what the constitution has ensured for them, because firstly the problem that I have shared, that there was no kind of legal awareness among this community. So when there was no legal awareness, they were not aware of what the constitution has ensured the right to this community. So only after the enactment of this Forest Right Act for this community in 2006, they get more aware of because after 2006 this community got the forest the right over their traditional forest, their individual forest, their community forest. It is only after 2006, and after that I think the sense of accepting this constitution has raised among these communities. And I don't think while working with this community there was no resistance about what we were trying to convey to these people. So I also what I mentioned, when I go to this community, so we are not trying to impose our ideas of development, which most of these NGOs are the upper caste people, those are working in these areas are trying to do. They're trying to impose their kind of development, which sometimes is not acceptable by the vision of constitution. So we are very conscious when we are approaching the communities, that we are going to the communities with the approach and not to impose the idea of development that community don't want. So we're trying to align the idea of development that community wants and what idea of the constitution, the idea of development of this community ensured in this constitution. So we try to combine that kind of ideas and go into the communities. So but there are some kind of practices there you will find the resistance. So there's a practice called kurmaghar, which is still practiced in this Madia community, where the menstruating women had to live in a period hut during her menstrual cycle. So this is the practice. So there is also, I mean, there's also conflict between within the community. Some argue that this is this is something which is supported by our tradition, by our culture, but at the same time there's also a group who try to educate them that you keeping the women at the period hut and denying her dignity is against the constitutional morality. So people are still working on it. People are, I mean, trying to now accept it. So when we try to find out the legal, I mean, the cause behind this kind of practices which are still sustained, we also did a small empirical study. We found that people are unaware of this kind of scientific process behind this periods and the entire process behind it. So I think going to the communities with the very constitutional idea, with the ideals of this Indian constitution, people are now accepting it. So even in this scenario of Vengnur, the state was saying that these villages are influenced by this left-wing extremist group, the Nakshal movement. So we are finding hard to reach to these villages, to build the roads, to build the bridges in those villages, because this kind of Nakshal people are opposing this. But we need to make it clear that the Adivasis are not Nakshals. Adivasi want that kind of development, but this kind of movement that was sustained for a long time in Gadchiroli has also hampered the development in the district. And between this conflict of this police and the state and the Nakshal movement, the Adivasi communities who have suffered a lot. Because when we went to the Vengnur village to resolve their issue, the Nakshal movement has vanished from this village 10 to 15 years ago. But still, the state were arguing that the village is influenced by this movement. But there is no such data. There is no presence. Even police also has accepted that there is no presence of this kind of movement. But they were trying to delay this kind of development which Adivasi people were demanding. So there are multiple conflicts that we face during our intervention with these people, but they are accepting what the constitution vision that is envisioned by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar or envisioned by the Adivasi leader Jaipal Singh Munda. I hope I answer your question.
Yeah, thank you for the detailed information on the question. Also, I know I understand you touched upon the Naxalite ideas, and time and again we have seen for so many years, the ideas, once it's rooted, doesn't usually die so easily. And that may be the reason where the people may still have that resistance built in their mindset, and nothing wrong in that understanding. However, my question goes back to the issues of the so-called the progressive